The report found every element of a crime. In fact, it said it was intentional, and he knew what he was doing, and they knew all that. What it said was, even though all the elements of the crime exist, we're going to use prosecutorial discretion and not prosecute, because by the time he's no longer president, he might be an 85-year-old man, and already even now, based on our interviews, he looks like a nice old man who suffers from memory problems, and we don't think we're going to be able to get a jury to convict him. So we believe we shouldn't go forward with charges, even though the element of the crime has been met.
But he's also saying, the prosecution's also saying, sir, that he was not even aware of what he's doing. He was forgetting a lot of this.
Well,
that aside,
yeah, the
do you think that those are grounds enough? Absolutely. But do you think that those are grounds enough, and the revelations enough, even the president's protests after the fact last night, where he seemed to actually dig an even deeper forgetful hole, that he is up to the task? Should he quit?
No, I think that's a very valid question, and it's one that I have. I can't assess the president other than what I see publicly and what others have seen. Look, we have eyes, but the biggest problem here, and I'm always careful about this because there's plenty of reasons to vote against Joe Biden in November beyond the fact that he has what appears to be age-related dementia, which is a big deal. But I mean, beyond that, there's a lot of reasons to vote against him. But I also know that this conversation and that report is also being read in Beijing. It's being read in Tehran. It's being read in Moscow. It's being read by these terrorists hiding out in their little caves, and it may incite them or invite them to take action against this country. It puts our country in danger. No one's talking about that piece of it. And then look, there's embedded hypocrisy here, right? I mean, I guess the only special prosecutors we are allowed to attack are those that go after Trump. But if they go after Biden, then they can say anything they want about the special prosecutor, appointed by Merrick Garland, by the way. I think prosecutorial discretion, I have no problem with that, but it has to be fair. It's the same argument I made about Mar-a-Lago. It should not have been brought to trial. The damage that indictment has done is more than the damage of storing it at Mar-a-Lago was, and I argued that at the time. And they did. In that case, they didn't use it. In this case, they did. But I obviously think we can't ignore what it said about his memory.
All right, on that same issue, a lot of Democrats have come and talked to me today who say, well, then people should scrutinize Donald Trump's speeches. He misplaces and mix up names and individuals, and they want like a jihad on this issue of who remembers and forgets what. What do you think of that, and is that what you get when you run two old men against each other for the highest office in the land?
But I think that's what campaigns are going to be about, and I think voters will make that assessment, and I think we've been making that assessment. I don't think anyone that's being honest or fair would say that there's any comparison by the way that Donald Trump performs and the way Joe Biden does. Look, our people that are concerned about his memory, about his acuity and our mental acuity are not basing it off one report. They're basing it off watching this guy for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, this is not just now. This has been going on for a while, and we know this. And we know we've heard the same murmurs coming quietly out of Democratic circles as well. We've seen that, okay? We know that that is a problem. It's not just an age thing. I know people, there are people that serve in the Senate that are past 80 and are clear as a whistle, can remember things from a long time ago, and they're, so it's not, it has to do with, for whatever he's going through, whatever it is, it's apparent to people. You're watching it on television. We watched it again last night, and then he goes up out there and screams about, Israel's gone over the top. Just think about, I imagine that was unscripted. He's here asking for more money for Israel's war effort, which I support, and then he's saying they're going over the top. So he's asking us to fund something that's over the top. I mean, it's just issue time and time again things that make no sense that he keeps doing. And look, I'm concerned about it primarily because our adversaries are seeing this, and if they think that he is not up to the task, they may do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Say what you want about Trump, they were scared of him. They didn't know what he was going to do. They thought he was capable of anything, and we didn't have these things going on around the world because they respected and frankly feared him. I think they fear Joe Biden.
So real quickly, Nikki Haley, earlier on in the campaign, as you know, Senator, had advocated a mental competency test for those of a certain age. I think she put Donald Trump and Joe Biden in that together. What do you think?
I think it's gimmicky. First of all, there's no way to compel or require that. Second of all, there are plenty of people in the U.S. Senate then that would have to take it. We have a lot of people in the U.S. Senate that are over a certain age. We've got leaders of parties that are over a certain age. They would have to take it too. But it's a gimmicky. Again, it's not an age thing. It really isn't. We all know people that are in their 90s and could run circles around people in their 60s. It has to do with your mental acuity. It has to do with, and I think those are legitimate questions. We're not trying to be cruel or mean here. I think it's not just the special counsel's report. It's things we're watching every single day.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.